Hey, Bloomington Normal, and welcome back to Speechless on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. You may notice my voice is going a little bit. Last night, there was a wonderful concert at Six Strings I went to, and it was a great band. I did an interview with the lead singer, a patriotic guy, Pat from Miller Holler, and I'll be posting that to my YouTube sometime this week. But everybody, if you're just tuning in, this is Speechless with Kev Phares. Last hour, we had the David Paul Blumenshine show, in which he had a great conversation with former governor candidate Darren Bailey. Go check that out on our Facebook page. And speaking of our Facebook page, you can be now, if you might be listening on the radio or on your app, but you can now also stream us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter, Cities 92.9, or you can find my own personal pages, Speechless with Kev Phares. I would love if you guys would tune in and check us out there, but don't be doing that while you're driving. Don't need you looking at us when you need to be following traffic laws. But everybody, we're going to get started with the show here. We got a lot to talk about, and I have a great guest coming on with me in just one moment. But we have a lot, but there's been a lot going on in Illinois, and even across the nation as it comes to the religion of woke environmentalism. New York has made a move to ban natural gas, meaning your gas stoves are going away, even though Chuck Schumer said that they weren't. There in Illinois, though, we're also on a similar track with a bill that's mandating electric vehicle charger capabilities for new construction, and that's heading to Governor Pritzker's desk. Along with that, we also in the state in the last week or so had the ComEd 4, Mike Madigan's cronies, convicted on all counts of corruption. Everybody, if you're just tuning in, I'm Kevin Phares, and you're watching Speechless. So I'm obviously not an expert on everything Illinois government, and so I oftentimes want to bring on people that are close as I could possibly get. And so that's why today, talk about the things that I just started off with. I have State Representative Brad Holbrook, who is from, I believe you're from the 107th District, correct?
That's right, Kevin. Thanks for having me on. 107th District. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you just fine.
Great.
Perfect.
So
Great
that's
mic you got there.
Yeah. So I live in Shelbyville. Just to give your listeners a little bit of a view about the district. It's all of Shelby County, most of Moultrie County, which is Sullivan, goes south into Effingham County. We pick up a little bit of Cumberland County to the east, a whole lot of Christian County, which is Taylorville, and then a little corner of Montgomery, and then the southern part of Macon, just south of Decatur. So it's a nice compact district as districts go in the state of Illinois.
Awesome. Yep. So right in the heartland of Illinois, really. And so
Right.
there's a lot I want to talk about with you. Obviously, the two biggest stories. The first one I want to start with is the bill mandating the EV charger capabilities for new construction is now headed to Governor Pritzker's office. Via the center square, Illinois may soon force new home buyers to include electric vehicle charging infrastructure. Senate Bill 40 would require buildings to have EV-capable conduits and would apply to new and existing homes, apartments, and condo buildings. It would also require new construction of homes and multi-unit buildings to include basic infrastructure for electric vehicle charging in a certain number of parking spaces. According to the bill's sponsor, Rep. Robin Gable, who's a Democrat from Evanston, said charging your car is a lot less expensive than buying gas, and we should make this as easy as possible for electric car owners. So and there's a lot of other things that are being said. Rep. Travis Weaver, who is from Pekin, said if less than 1% of cars on the road are EVs and less than 0.1% of cars in my district are EVs, I just don't see why we're having people downstate pay for this infrastructure. So obviously there's two sides of this debate, and that's kind of where I lie on this is why is it even while it might be cheaper to charge your car, why is it that the state is making it even more cheaper by basically subsidizing these charging stations onto people that do drive gas cars?
Right. Well, it's part of the social engineering. I think big picture, it's social engineering. They're trying to force a narrative. They're trying to force an outcome. And this is really troubling for a lot of us, right? And I always use the example of this phone. It's like, how many government subsidies were used to get those smartphones to the top of the market? Well, absolutely zero.
Yep.
If the market likes it, the market's going to dictate. But they know that this alternative energy, whether it's wind or solar or whatever, they know that's expensive. They know it's going to be slow to adopt. I mean, we've had mandates in the state of Illinois for a number of years to be like 25%, I think, alternative energy by year 2025. Well, that's not very far away. And we're in the low teens at best, maybe 12, 13, 14%.
Yeah,
So,
well, and even building on that a bit more with when it comes to the statistics of all this, About 40% of Americans say that they'll consider electric when they buy their next car. But when the poll that shows also shows that only about 8% of adults say they or someone in their household owns or leases an EV. So electric vehicles, it seems interesting. While I understand the need potentially for charging stations in the future as we do move towards having more electric vehicles on the road, it's just not financially uh, reasonable right now to expect that many people to have an electric vehicle and then also force people, businesses, even potential homes to have these electric vehicle capabilities when most people aren't even using them.
Right. I think again, it's the government is trying to pick winners and losers. They're trying to force mandates on individuals and business. That's just too costly, and they need to let the market decide. But that's not what they want. And I think this is more about control, right? I mean, it's about the
Hmm.
control, and they know that America's been made great on low cost energies. I mean, we've got every square foot of Illinois soil has coal buried beneath it
Yeah.
and a ton of oil. I mean, it's often been said that Illinois is the Saudi Arabia of coal, just because of the vast coal reserves that we have. But there's just this agenda by the Marxist left to arbitrarily shut down our coal and natural gas fired electrical generating facilities across this state, and they've there's no clear cut plan about how to bring on alternative energies, but we're forcing this stuff with electrical vehicle rebates, forcing building codes to change to put all these charging stations in. And part of my debate that day on the floor about this was there was a 3 or 4 electrical charging stations there on the southwest corner of the Stratton building, and they're gone. And I tried to get to the bottom of why are those stations gone. Well, it's the construction. Well, the construction's on the other side of the Capitol complex. It's not right there. The
Hmm.
technology is changing so fast that this stuff changes. I mean, you could install that stuff today, and I don't know, in a matter of a year or 2 or 3, the technology could change. And we know it's going to get less expensive as we go forward, typically.
Yeah. Absolutely. But I got to ask too, just to be clear, do you drive an electric car
No, I do not.
now? What kind of car do you drive?
Well, I have a GMC Terrain, gas powered. I have
Yep.
a Nissan. Linda has a Nissan Maxima, gas powered, diesel
Yep.
powered pickup.
And it's undeniable that for many, there is a cost benefit to driving an electric vehicle
Right.
in the long run.
Right.
But right now, like I said, it does not seem feasible. And the state, I think the biggest problem that I have is the state forcing it down everybody's throats, but also kind of setting a precedent here to to push this kind of agenda further. Like I mentioned in my intro, it seems like this could lead to a similar type of ban. New York recently kind of did through their budget, did a ban on gas stoves and natural gas hookups to new developments. Do you see that as something that Illinois could potentially pursue sometime soon, despite Democrats
Right.
saying they're not coming for gas stoves?
Right. I think any of that stuff is on the table.
Hmm.
And we talked about when the New York stuff was going through, and we would put up different Facebook or social media memes about the gas stoves, come and take it, and all that. And a fair amount of folks says, yep, they can see that, they can understand it. And of course, there were some folks that said, oh, there's nothing could be further from the truth. But when you see the acceleration of these kind of things happening that we've seen coming out of DC, out of the Biden administration. You see this in the blue states. There's just this all-on attack on low-cost energy of coal and gas and oil, and you see these mandates coming. They are forcing this to happen sooner than later.
They are. They absolutely are. I do want to take a quick second here to shout out my sponsor for the show. Everybody, today's episode is brought to you by Paul Garcia Productions out of Normal, Illinois. Paul Garcia Productions creates stunning and effective videos and commercials for Central Illinois businesses. Visit paulgarciaproductions.com to learn more. If you're on YouTube, that link is in the description of this. Paul is great. He helps me with this camera. He helps me with my setup. He's going to help your business get more business. Everybody visit Paul Garcia Productions. He's a great sponsor of this show. Moving on though, when it comes, so we talked a bit about the EV charger capabilities, this whole bill. It seems like it's kind of a done deal, right? It's going to go to
Right.
Pritzker's office. It's going to have to happen. What are the effects of this bill? We talked about the precedent, but like the immediate effects once this is signed. What'll this do to the taxpayer, and how will it affect me?
Yeah, so I think it's going to drive cost up for home builders or home buyers. Ultimately, the consumer pays the freight on all this stuff. There's this mindset in Springfield that they can pass all these taxes, they can pass all these fees on business because business is this evil giant that just has these insane profits, right?
Hmm.
Well, for them to stay in business, they've got to continue to make profit. So if Springfield continues to pass these, undue mandates on them and fees and taxes, they're just going to pass that on to us, the end
Yep.
user, the consumer, right? So we ultimately, it ultimately rests with us, the ones that consume those goods or those services, and this is just going to drive up cost. And I think this is premature to put these kind of things in place. So I think that's the bottom line: is it's just going to drive cost up, make it more expensive to live in this state. It will make it easier for people to make decisions to move to other states that are low or no tax, low regulation states. And I think that's what we're seeing. I mean, you see data after data talking about what most recently this IRS data that WirePoint's put out: 105,000 folks or families have moved to other states from Illinois. And
Hmm.
it's just been a long growing trend to that fact.
Yeah. And I mean, everything in Illinois is about cost.
Hmm.
Everything. I mean, there's the running gag where it's Illinois will tax your grass, your gas, and your ASS. So it's that is always what they're seeking. These Democrats in our state legislators seem to be doing. But you're in the fight against that kind of woke and progressive Marxism, like we've talked about, with the Illinois Freedom Caucus. Can you? Not everybody necessarily knows because everybody, I have people on YouTube, obviously the people on the radio know a little bit more about what's going on locally and in the state of Illinois, but a lot of people that are outside of our state just see us as a blue haven, when in reality
Hmm.
Cook County is blue and the rest of the state for the most part is red, besides maybe like DuPage area and some of those collar counties. But the majority of the state is Republican, and you are in the fight against the wokeness in our government with the Freedom Caucus. Can you tell
Hmm.
us a little bit about what the Freedom Caucus is and what they're doing in Illinois?
Yeah, well, thanks for mentioning that. And
Hmm.
as of Friday the 5th, we rolled out a year ago, so we're a year and 2 days old now in the state of Illinois. We were
Awesome.
the fifth Freedom Caucus. I'm sorry, the fifth statewide Freedom Caucus to roll out. They rolled out their 11th state here just a month or so ago, and so this is continuing to build momentum. It's part of a state Freedom Caucus network that is a part of the House Freedom Caucus network that's in Congress, and so. We're just trying to further perpetuate the ideas of freedom and liberty, economic freedom, freedom from all these mandates and unnecessary things that seem to happen in some of these legislatures. And if there's a state that is ever in need of a freedom caucus, it's Illinois, right? I mean,
Absolutely.
but we hear reports in some of these deep red states and some of the stuff that Republicans are passing there, it doesn't seem to be a lot different than maybe in some of the deep blue states, but there is some differences. But I think the Illinois Freedom Caucus has made a tremendous amount of momentum in the last year with some of the things that, with the pushback on the woke agenda, the pushback
Hmm.
on these mandates and things. I think we're getting the attention of the media and many others, and I think that's important, and I think that's the value in being part of a network like the State Freedom Caucus Network.
Well, and I think you're right. It's absolutely necessary. One thing that a criticism I often hear of the Illinois Freedom Caucus is that it seems to some that you aren't actually getting much done in terms of policy. Like there's not much policy, but the thing is that look at Illinois.
Mhm.
We know that right now it's not going to be possible to necessarily push the most conservative policy, but there needs to be somebody saying it. And I think that's the necessity of the Freedom Caucus. When good people stand by and do nothing, that's when
Mhm.
evil triumphs. And you guys
Right.
are the good people that are not allowing evil to triumph.
Right. I mean, 2 years ago there was an ethics bill. I hate to say it, but Republicans stood up and railed on that bill on the House floor and then voted for it. And there was
Hmm.
only 5 Republicans that voted against it. And within days of that bill passing out, the legislative inspector general resigned her position in that role. She said this is just a paper tiger. It's watered down ethics reform. And the argument we hear on bills like this ethics stuff and the like is, well, we have to start somewhere. This is a great place to start. But guess what? They never come back to revisit that. now you fast forward to, to what happened in the last week or two with these decisions coming out of Cook County or the federal court with the ComEd situation. It's like, boy, if there was ever a need for a place for ethics reform and corruption reform, Illinois would be that place. And it just continues to get shoved to the back.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm coming up against a break here, but in the next segment, I really want to cover a lot of that ComEd stuff, because I think the ethics reform that you're talking about is a perfect transition into that, because while yes, Republicans a few years ago railed against that, there was also an instance I know of as soon as Madigan, pretty much right after Madigan was indicted, Republicans put forth an ethics reform bill in the state legislature, and then the Democrats were the ones to rail against that.
Right.
So they said, no. When, like you said, ethics is what we need. We need a return of ethics. But David Paul Blumenstein before me talks about how we need a return of God to government and in society. 100% agree. And I think that what will come of that is a return of ethics in our government, because Illinois we're called the Windy City, not because there's any wind or anything. It's because of the politicians that we have. But everybody on the radio, I will be right back. We got to take a quick break here. Please listen to the sponsors and patronize them. If you do not want to just go with all those sponsors and everything, you can go on to Facebook. I'm live on Facebook. I'm live on YouTube, live on Twitch, live on Twitter, everywhere. Speechless with Kev Phares. We'll be right back. Thank you so much for listening. Awesome. Thank you so much for joining me, Brad. I want to take a chance. I know that coming right at the beginning of the show makes it so that that we don't get a chance to necessarily get to know each other as much. But I want to take a chance to get, so you mentioned you're from the Shelbyville area.
Right.
What got you in? I know you've been in the state legislature for almost 2 decades now, a little over.
Well, so I came so I primaried my incumbent sitting state rep in April or March of 2012, and he resigned right after the primary when I defeated him. And so then there was an empty, I was just planning on getting sworn in January of 13, and he resigned. So I was the obvious choice to fill that next 8 months of that unfinished term. So I was there for 8 months, then my term in 13 and 14. Then I left. I left that for 2 years in 15 and 16, and came back in January and 2017. I've been there ever since. So it's been 9 years, I guess. And so I was just involved with local politics, and became a part of a reform movement, and that's why I'm here.
That's awesome. And so you, when you say you were involved in local politics, were you on like city council or?
Well, actually, just the county party activities.
Oh, I got you.
So I became county party chairman in 2006, and I didn't seek re-election for county party chairman back last July at the convention, and was chairman since 2006, all but a couple of those years in there when I first ran for rep.
Absolutely. I was curious because I know yesterday there was the what was it called? The Faith to Government, Faith to Freedom event or something like that in the state capitol. Were you in attendance to that?
Yes, I did go to that.
Yeah, I saw some videos from that. Darren talked about that with DPB in the last segment or in the last show. And I saw the video of just like everybody singing with Sean Foyt. It was beautiful. What was it like in your eyes?
Yeah, well, it's always a unique experience when things like that happen, and especially when they happen in the state capitol. We don't usually have rallies like that, and so there's rallies there nearly every day, but not of kind of a spiritual or of faith kind of things to that extent. So Sean Foyt, that I had never met before, knew about. He was part of Bethel, and I knew about them, and of course Corey Asbury probably maybe put them on the map if somebody else didn't. And so anyhow, it was good to kind of meet him and kind of experience that. So it was a good event. Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's really loud in the rotunda. It's just really loud there. And if you've ever been there to experience any of those kind of things before.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I'm so happy it happened, especially after there was all that controversy around Christmas last year, when the Satanic Temple decided they needed to have a Satan type figurine or something in displayed because we had the nativity scene for Christians. And so I'm really happy to see that we're finally having these revivals happen across the country. And I think the greatest thing is that a lot of it is being led by a younger generation. And I think that's the best part.
Right. Right. Yeah. Kingdom to Capital. I had to look up to see what the
That's
name
it.
was. Kingdom
That's
to
it.
Capital. Yep.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Turning Point USA Faith hosted that. And we are just about to come back and let's hammer in on this ComEd story here. And we are back with Speechless on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. I got so much here to cover today, including Barstool Sports. Barstool Sports has a crazy story out right now. And everybody, I'm going to be getting to that later in the show. You got to know why they fired one of their most popular hosts. I'm going to tell you all about that. But before we get to that, I have State Representative Brad Holbrook with me, the representative from the 107th District. Talking about a lot of things. If you missed my last segment, in the last segment, I talked with him about the government, Illinois government, mandating EV chargers in future developments. It's insane, and it's going to cost the taxpayer tons of money. In this segment, though, I want to talk about Illinois corruption. The state of Illinois, unfortunately, has a deep-seated public corruption problem, corruption that erodes and eats away at the people's confidence in their government and in their elected officials. Rooting out and prosecuting those who participate in that corruption has been, is, and will continue to be the top priority of the United States Attorney's Office. Yeah, obviously, I didn't write that. That was U.S. Attorney Morris Pascal after the verdict was announced that a jury had found all defendants in the ComEd 4 trial guilty on all counts this last Tuesday. Brad, I was hoping you could just explain to the audience a little bit what happened. What is this ComEd scandal? What is the issue of corruption, and why is it such a big deal?
Yeah. So, I didn't really follow that story super close like some have. I just there's just a lot of moving parts there, and that's fine. But it basically was, ComEd and their lobbyists coming to Springfield trying to advance legislation. And I think the short version here is people were getting jobs that were basically doing political work, but they were getting paid, I think, by ComEd, right? And
Yep.
they were political jobs to work elections and the like. And again, a lot of this money flowing in and out of Springfield, in and around the former speaker, to advance legislation that, number one, would be a direct an increase in cost to consumers. Okay. And so I just think this is, if this isn't the poster child or the poster case for the need for corruption and ethics reform in Illinois, I don't know what it is. I think this ComEd situation just goes so far and wide. And then you got to kind of wonder about all the other special interest. And this may get a little tender for some folks, but there's a ton. Well, Springfield's, I'm finish this first statement. There's just a ton of special interest, and go on to say that Springfield's run by special interest, whether it's, the public sector unions or maybe even private unions, private sector unions. It's run by the special interest. And I think if you were to continue to peel the layers of the onion back, or to pull the curtain back, whatever metaphor you want to use, I think it would be insane what people would be shocked by it. And I think the comments of the jurors, and I don't have them in front of me, and I can't, we talked about this last week, is the comments from the jurors. I mean, the jurors could see what was going on when they were presented with the facts.
I have some of them right here.
Yeah.
I think one of the jurors said, I think that all in all, they're good people that made bad decisions. One juror said, as she left the courthouse, the argument that the defense did very well to try to prove was that was all normal, of course. Try to prove that this was all the normal course of business. It did not sit well with us. Some other things. That was the last. I was just looking at the ABC 7 article here. An ABC 7 investigative reporter did say, though, this is the worst case scenario for what amounted to now a de facto trial for Mike Madigan. Many of the same issues, many of the same players. This might have been Mike Madigan on trial. Now you see a slam dunk for the government. It'll be the same prosecutor in the court against Mike Madigan. If Madigan is not toast, he certainly is burned badly on one side. So here's the thing that kind of doesn't sit well with me about all of this. I mean, obviously the corruption and everything from that, but what doesn't sit well with me is that this happened. I mean, the indictment and the corruption charges and everything happened over a year ago. Right. And the Republican Party in Illinois seems to not be capitalizing as much as I feel like they should be on this. Shouldn't we be winning more elections? Shouldn't we be plastering everything with Democrats are literally corrupt. It is verified by law that these Democrats are corrupt. Why is it that we're not necessarily plastering that out there, and that we still are losing on several fronts?
Yeah, I don't know if our party kind of has a surrender mentality. Say, well, we can't win in those districts. I don't even know. And again, I'm a long ways from some of those districts. 3 hours, 3.5, 4 hours away from some of those districts. And I know when you look at the numbers, they're 80, 90% Democrat districts. But I'm just asking a question: have the
Hmm.
Republicans put up viable candidates in those districts? You know, I don't want to change gears on you, but just the thought
Yep.
that's come to my mind here in the last few days about this invest in kids, right? It's a tax credit for school kids,
Yep.
and the kids and the families that most need that vote for these Democrats that are trying to kill this bill.
Hmm.
These people that basically did not vote Lori Lightfoot back in, voted for Brandon Johnson.
Who's
That
as bad, if not worse?
this is bad and worse, and he's
Hmm.
not interested in this. I mean, he's a teacher union person, right? So he's not interested in this invest in kids stuff. But yet those people well, maybe they don't have a choice. Well, why can't we as Republicans take that argument to the precincts, to the front doors, and talk about it? I don't know. I don't know what that environment's like. I know what it is in Central Illinois. I know it's different, and I don't want to be critical of my colleagues, even though it may sound like it. But it's like, man, I don't know. Given a choice, if these jurors could figure this out and see what was going on, hopefully the voters could see this and make some changes. I don't know.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, we do have to take a quick break here. I know that on the radio there might have been a little bit of audio issues. Everybody, sorry for that. We're obviously doing a lot of technological advances here at Cities 92.9. We are working to try to bring you the best possible content. And as always, make sure you go check us out on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, everywhere. Representative Holbrook, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate talking with you about all these different things. And we do have to, like I said, have to take a quick break here. But thank you so much again for joining me. And everybody, we will be right back with more Speechless on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. Awesome. Should be all fixed. Yeah, I was having a little bit of trouble with the audio on the radio, but it all is all fixed now.
Okay.
But thank you so much for joining me. Any last words or anything that you'd like to add about the corruption and everything that's going on?
Yeah. It's just if there's ever a time to fix any of this, it needs to be done now. I don't know if it's ever going to get fixed. Um, Madigan's trial's a year away. Um, I don't know. I just think this thing goes far and wide.
Hmm.
And I think that's maybe part of the reason you don't see the outrage for some Republicans. Could they be in on it? I don't know.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, thank you again, Representative. I really appreciate it.
Well, thanks. This is the first
Uh,
time I've used StreamYard, so it
yep,
went pretty stream. We're kind of a restream guys, what we use a
yeah,
lot, and I've never used StreamYard. I know others do, so it was kind of fun to see that work. So, hey, thanks for having me on. Good to see
of
you.
course, of
All
course.
right,
Thank you
thanks.
so
Yep.
much. Bye bye.
Bye.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for checking that out. If you're coming here from Modern Renaissance Man's channel, then we then I really appreciate that. And sorry, I said, I am live on, or I'm oftentimes live on the radio too. And so I'm fixing everything. I'm just making sure everything's going good. I'll be back live on the radio in a few minutes. Got to take a quick second here, do some crowd control. Okay, we'll be right back in just a few minutes here, talking all about the Bud Light controversy and everything. Thank you guys so much for tuning into everything. Uh, Awesome. So up next, we will be talking about the Bud Light stuff. Whew. I'm sorry, not Bud Light. We're talking about Barstool Sports. I got a few different things in here. I got kind of mixed up because I messed up the radio a little bit with the interview, but do not worry. We are all back on track now. Okay. Thank you. It's very interesting. From Utah. Thank you so much for tuning in, Mark. Everybody from, if you're coming from Modern Renaissance Man's channel or anything, please do not forget to like and subscribe. I really appreciate that. Like and subscribe to the channel. Okay, we'll be right back with the radio soon here, everybody. Let's see what else is going on here. And we are back with Speechless on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I'm your host, Kev, and I got to address something. I've been trying to make it so that our station is bringing you the best top quality content on all fronts because we are doing something that no one else does. We are bringing you conservative local content from people that are right here in your community. I'm a college kid, I'm a college kid. I'm learning the ropes on a lot of different things. And in the last segment, I had an interview with Brad Holbrook. That was a great interview, and I hope you got to catch it in some way. I know that there was some audio interference issues on the radio when it comes to that. It's a lot. I produce this show. I've been doing. I produce it. I write everything for it. I do as much as I pretty much do this show almost entirely on my own, obviously with the help of our resources that we have here at Cities 92.9, but it's a lot. And so I missed a few buttons and part of that interview got scratched on the radio. And I'm so sorry about that. I'm trying to be as professional as possible and really sorry about that, but it is on YouTube. It's on Facebook. It's on Twitter. And so we can go back and have that in the past, but let's move forward because that's what this is about. We make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes and we need to move forward. And that's what this next story is about. Ben Mintz. You might not know that name. I know a lot of my audience might not necessarily follow Barstool Sports, but let's talk a bit about what Barstool Sports is. Barstool Sports is a pop culture and sports media entertainment site. It started off as just like a small publication ran by this guy named Dave Portnoy. Since then, it has now become like this multi-million-dollar brand that thrives off a little bit of irreverence, sports news. It has entertainment news, a lot of pop culture. And they always make headlines. They make a lot of headlines because they're just, in terms of their marketing, it's fantastic, right? Well, there's a story that came out this last week about this guy named Ben Mintz. He's one of their podcast hosts. And honestly, he's not one of the most attractive guys or anything, but he is honestly, he could be a stand-in for like John Blutarski from Animal House. That's what he kind of looks like. He looks like a John Belushi kind of character. He's goofy, but he's a Southern frat boy. And that's really what Barstool Sports kind of goes after. A lot of times it's frat boys and that kind of humor and pop culture. So this is coming out of the New York Post. This week, he made headlines after live streaming his Barstool show, Wake Up Mintzy, in which he was reading the lyrics to a Bone Thugs in Harmony hit. So it's a rap song. He was reading the lyrics to it off of his phone, and he accidentally rapped the N-word. And so we know what that means. If he accidentally rapped the N-word, his life is over. Because in the world that we live in, that is a cardinal sin. No, not necessarily in actual religion, but it is a cardinal sin to those to the woke mob that wants to police speech. Now, I'm not defending saying the N-word. I think it's wrong. There's obviously a historical context of it that makes it a word that definitely should not be used. However, he had a Ron Burgundy moment. A lot of us, I'm sure, have seen Ron Burgundy in The Anchorman. In The Anchorman, Ron Burgundy he's a newscaster that basically reads everything in front of him, and to the point of one of his enemies wants to get him fired. And then so she puts "Go F yourself" onto the teleprompter, and he reads that live on air. Just like I'd get fired if I said the full words for saying that on air on the radio. He got fired from his job as a newscaster in that movie. That's what happened here. This guy was reading a rap lyrics, and now has gotten fired from his job, no longer gets to host his podcast, no longer gets to do everything because he accidentally said the N-word. He accidentally said the N-word. Now, like I said, I'm not defending the usage, but it is insane that we live in a society for which you would get fired for an accident such as that. Mintzy, Ben Mintz, ended up taking to Twitter to apologize, which an apology could be warranted in some way. But the apology reads very interestingly. It says, when this happened on May 1st, he said, "This morning, I made an unforgivable mistake slipping on air while reading a song lyric. I meant no harm and have never felt worse about anything. I apologize for my actions. I'm truly sorry and ashamed of myself." Okay. An unforgivable mistake. Why is this mistake unforgivable? Now, he might just be saying that because it's kind of a way that you say something when you feel really bad about something. You say it's an unforgivable mistake. But I think it hits to a deeper theme. An unforgivable mistake would mean, like the definition suggests, that it's a mistake that cannot be forgiven. Why can't it be forgiven? I think an apology is warranted, and I think that people should accept this apology. Again, he was reading rap song lyrics. He didn't let it slip while he was calling somebody it or something like that. No, he was reading song lyrics. If you don't want people to say it, then why do you have it in the song? Do you only want your song to be listened by a certain group of people that are socially allowed and accepted to say that word? It doesn't make sense to me that we have exclusive language, things that only certain people are allowed to say, especially in America, where we have a First Amendment. Now, I always clarify that with just because you have the right to say something doesn't mean that it's the right thing to say. Just because you have the right to say something doesn't mean it's the right thing to say. That said, we shouldn't have exclusive language. We shouldn't have language that you only get to say because you are a part of some kind of inherent group, or a group that you're inherently a part of because it's because you were born that way. That's what I'm trying to say, because you were born that way. Exclusive language doesn't make sense, because once we start saying, well, this person can say that, but that person can't, but that person can say this and the other person can't, then it becomes a jumbled we are unable as a society to then identify At some point, who can say what at what times? We are policing speech. That's what it's about, everybody. It's about policing speech. Again, not defending saying the N-word, but exclusive language. If we start with one word and we're able to justify and say, well, that word is so bad for white people to say white people can't say it, then who's to say eventually that that our Overton window, the window of speech that's socially acceptable to say, will not shrink more and more and more to where you're only allowed to ever, like, that word is not allowed now. What if eventually saying black is not allowed? It wasn't for a while. At one point it was African American, and then some people were like, well, I'm not from Africa, so we're not going to say African American. So now black is allowed. See, that's what happens is we cannot, if we continuously close the window on what is acceptable speech for certain groups of people, society will become unlivable. It's already starting to, if you ask me. But the founder of Barstool Sports, Dave Portnoy, even spoke up and came out and said that that he pleaded with their parent company, Penn Entertainment, to save Mintz's job, to no avail. It's also caused a huge uproar among fans of Barstool Sports who feel that Barstool, which was built on the foundational principle of going against cancel culture, had cowered to the forces of political correctness. I can sympathize with the company's unique situation and their need to look up for their fiscal health, because obviously this is not a good look for Barstool Sports. But the whole debate brings up a larger conversation about intent and context. That's the biggest thing as we talk about rap songs, including this word, intent and context. There was no harmful intent by Ben Mintz when he said that word. Like I said, he wasn't calling anybody it. He wasn't trying to be hateful. He simply slipped. And it was an accident. And that's the biggest thing. Mistakes need to be forgiven. We can't say that slipping and having, when he had no intent, is an unforgivable mistake. It is absolutely forgivable if forgiveness is sought. Technically, all mistakes are in some way forgivable. It's the anti-religious, the woke mob that do not want to allow us to forgive things. And so that's why I hope you guys will all forgive me for my mistake earlier when it came to the audio quality on the radio. Everybody, I love you all and thank you so much for listening. And like I said, I'm always trying to bring you guys the top quality content in every medium possible. And so please, please, please go check us out on Facebook, Cities 92.9 on Facebook, my own YouTube channel, Speechless with Kev Phares. I have a Twitch stream too. I don't even know if anybody watches that, but I am on Twitch, and I'm also on Twitter on Cities 92.9's Twitter. Everybody, we will be right back. We have to take a quick break, but we'll be back soon with more Speechless on Cities 92.9 on the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. Okie dokie, everybody. That actually worked perfectly. I had that little mistake on the radio of the audio quality, and now I was able to make it all work. So let's see what people are saying on here. Every rap song has, yes, absolutely. Every rap song has this word repeated a million times. You're raised in the hood. It was said a million times a day. That's the thing is I think honestly, and I might get into this a little bit in the next segment. I don't know. Maybe I don't have time, but, why is it that people get so upset about this guy saying it? I think it's white people. I think the majority, and we can try to talk, maybe I'll talk to Modern Renaissance man Ty Smith a little bit about this at some point. But the majority of black people, I think, would have like no issue with this guy saying that on accident. There was a whole Supreme Court case, I believe, or no, it wasn't a Supreme Court case, but there's been instances of like cheerleaders and stuff who have at high schools that have said that word when singing rap songs, and their team like disavows them and they get kicked off the team. All this bad stuff happens to them. And because they said it in a rap song. If you don't want people saying it, don't put it in your music. Period. I don't understand it. Let's look at some of these other comments here. That's funny. No seat 4 of that persuasion. That's funny. Let's see what else we got here. I think this is absolutely, you cannot claim to know God and not forgive. Forgiveness is key. Anything can be forgiven. I hate the idea that people say that this was an unforgivable mistake. One, he slipped and said a bad word. Like, forgivable. Absolutely forgivable. Like, I'd have a better, and even this is technically forgivable, but like a more unforgivable sin would be like killing somebody. If you were to do that, then yeah, I'd say like that is kind of unforgivable or close to it. It'd be more justifiable to say unforgivable. You said a bad word, dude. It's not unforgivable. We're going to be coming back onto the radio here in a little over a minute. Thank you guys so much for tuning in already. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe on YouTube, anywhere that you guys are watching. Like and subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. Thank you so much. I am on here for until about 5 o'clock today. So I got about another hour of content. And we're going to see what my next story is going to be. I have a few lined up here. Oh, this is a good one. We're going to talk about remarks by a national security advisor from Biden, or Biden national security advisor, Jake Sullivan. I think he has a really interesting take that's worth noting. 5 o'clock Central Standard Time. I'm in Illinois. So Central Standard Time, we'll have that. Okie dokie. I think we're coming back. Hey, Bloomington Normal, and welcome back to Speechless on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. I'm here on YouTube, on Facebook, everywhere, bringing you guys the content that you might not have known about. So in the last segment I talked, and I only got a few more minutes here before I get to another my second hour where I got a few more big stories to cover. So I'm going to wrap up a little bit more about what I was just covering. Ben Mintz, who is a Barstool Sports a Barstool Sports guy. You guys, Barstool Sports, it's an irreverent college humor type of show, or not just show. It's a media website. They got news stories. A lot of sports stuff. It's like I said, it's definitely aimed at more of the frat type humor. This guy is a white guy that got fired this last week because he read a rap song, and within the rap song was the N-word. Ty Smith is a frequent flyer here. Obviously has a show on Saturdays from 3 to 5, has me helping me out on YouTube by pushing some people to this page. I mean, I'm sure he would come in and tell you at some point. I'm going to talk to him about this and ask, do black people really even care about whether or not this white guy says the N-word in a rap song? Maybe some do. Maybe some are like, you shouldn't use it ever. I'm sure that there's people out there that think that you shouldn't even be using it in rap songs. But I really think that the outrage against this guy and the outrage against people who let it slip when saying a rap, the outrage is much more meant from white people. White people are mad about this. white people. Because a lot of it, I think, is the white savior liberal complex, where it's, oh my gosh, we need to protect you. You'd be so mad. You must be so sad as a black person to have this white guy say this one word from a rap song. You must be so mad. So the white people say that guy needs to be fired. Because he hurt the black people's feelings without ever even consulting them. I guess we need to have a meeting of all the black people to talk about whether or not they're mad at this one guy for letting the N-word slip. And it was obvious if you watch the video of him saying it. I can't play it on the radio, obviously, because of the content. But if you watch the video of this guy saying the word, he literally, as soon as he does, his face goes white. He knew that he shouldn't have done that he shouldn't have said it. But to fire this guy, I cannot believe that we would fire a guy over having that slip. And like the other thing too is I hope he still creates content. I hope he creates content outside of Barstool Sports. I've seen a little bit of his stuff. He's funny, he's interesting, he's witty. And he had one mistake. And I think, honestly, this news story could actually be great for his. I mean, think about it. Morgan Wallen gets caught in private calling one of his buddies the N-word, right? The left tries to cancel him. He still sells out stadiums. Across the country. Is currently on a massive tour, one at a time tour. I think if anything, getting caught saying the N-word and apologizing for it and having the left try to cancel you for it is actually a great career move, apparently. Because for Mintz, a lot of people know who he is now. And a lot of people are siding with him. People are boycotting Barstool for firing him over a mistake. And I think that's the biggest issue that we see. It's not about saying the N-word. It's not that increases your career. What it's about is when the left is so unforgiving. And the majority of people, they're not even necessarily left, right, whatever. The majority of people understand that mistakes are going to be made. An apology can be warranted. And then you move on. And that's how the world is supposed to work. But the left thinks you should be fired from your job, doxxed, absolutely destroyed in every way, shape, and form. That's what they want. Well, everybody, in the next hour, I'm going to talk a little bit about something that came up from a Biden security advisor, and we're going to take that soon. I also I'm getting a caller here. Everybody, you can call or text in at 309-451-9299. You can also check us out on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, everything like that. But everybody, we will be right back with more Speechless on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. Okay, guys, I'm getting a call here. I got to take it real quick. So I'm going to do that. Hi there, this is Kev. How can I help you? Hey, Mama Dawn, how's it going? Awesome. Yeah, I appreciate it. Are you interested in coming on in the next segment? If you want to, I was planning on going to something a little bit different though and wrapping up that story. Okay, so if you like what you're hearing in the next one, I'll bring you on during the next segment, okay? I might just have you do the phone line for that one. Okay. But I'm gonna have it hang up right now. Listen to what I'm talking about in the next segment, and then we'll see. Okay. Awesome. Awesome, everybody. That was Mama Dawn. Thank you, Mama D, for calling in. Everybody, that phone and text line, call and text line is 309-451-9299. I have a news story coming up for my next segment that I'm going to talk about. And if you're interested in talking about that, Mama D, I'd love to have you on. I see that we're getting some texts in here, not texts, some comments in here. I need a new nickname. Kyle. A lot of people will call me Kyle sometimes. I don't know. There's in my generation and for people around my age, Kyle is not seen as necessarily a popular name. Kyle is like a Karen of young men. An unlikable person. It's kind of, it's a funny name like that. Got to have a soul to forgive. Absolutely. White liberals, yep, think that they're superior. Therefore, it's charity to help the poor, underprivileged minorities. Exactly. I think it was Malcolm X who said, that you need not fear the conservative. I mean, I don't agree with Malcolm X on everything that he said in this statement, but it was something to the effect of like, you don't need to fear the conservative because he claims that like their hatred is out in the open. What you need to fear, which is BS, but what he does say is what you need to fear is the white liberal because they they act like they're so helpful and everything, but in reality they're just as racist. Um, so voice of sanity, I like that one. Yep. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you haven't already, please, 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 please like and subscribe and share it with your friends. I really do appreciate that. Kiev. I am not a city in Ukraine, I believe is where Kiev is. Maybe Russia, but I think it's Ukraine. Kevy Kev. Sounds like my mom. My mom calls me Kevy. My sisters call me Kevy too. Yep. If you guys have tuned in just recently and didn't already know, my voice it might be sounded a little raspy or something. There was a concert. I have a band that I love. They're called Miller Holler. I have one of their songs plays in my bump music. Um, Highly recommend Miller Holler. Miller like the beer and Holler like Holler, Holler. Great band, very patriotic band too. I did an interview with them or with their lead singer at the bar last night. I'm going to post that interview sometime this week, so stay tuned. Make sure you hit the notification bell because I did a great talk with him about. He has a song called "Don't Sell the Farm," and he actually even made a documentary, a mini documentary that'll be releasing later this month, and it's all about like the lack of family farms and how people are selling away their family farms because it's not sustainable anymore because the government's making it so that you can't make nearly as much money and the best way to make money from your farm now is to sell it to a corporate shill. And so he has a whole mini documentary that's coming out about that. It's a great song, "Don't Sell the Farm," that he has representing all that too. So I did an interview with him at the bar yesterday. Great, great interview. And I just got edited up a little bit and I talk about that. He's from Nashville, so I talked a little bit about the Nashville shooting with him. He actually used to have a partnership with Anheuser-Busch too, and you'll have to hear what he has to say about what he did after the Bud Light incident because that's fascinating. Everything that he had to say about that. So make sure, like I said, like, subscribe, share, and ring that notification bell. Set it to all so that because we know YouTube is trying to shadow ban us. Um, People trying to tell the truth. And so make sure you hit the notification bell. And then sometime this week, you'll be able to see that interview that I did with Pat, the lead singer of Miller Holler. PBR. Yes. That's what I drink. That's what I drink at the bar is a PBR. That rhymed. Hey, hey, hey. DeVeo, appreciate it. Everybody, MRM sent you. Thank you so much for coming. Like MRM, I do I live stream my radio show on Sundays from 3 to 5. I also do a live stream in the week, not on the radio. And that one usually can be a little bit more chill and laid back. Last week I did a review of some show my girlfriend told me to watch called The Button. So I did that. It was a pretty good review. I thought it was interesting, and that's one of my new segments is things my girlfriend told me to do, things people tell me to do. Because when you start live streaming, I get all these people that are like, "Well, you should do this or you should review that," and so now I'm just gonna things people told me to do is my new segment. When I get people that tell me to do things, look at what they did to farmers in Sweden. I'll have to look into that. I don't know exactly what you're talking about, but I'll have to look into that. These houses are being sold to giant companies. I will never sell my houses. Yep. Let's see what else we got here. Here's one. Exactly, Peach. The N word is a white word. Blacks didn't make up that ugly word. I, as an old school Army veteran, will never apologize for my free speech. Absolutely. Awesome. We're going to be coming back here and Just about a few minutes here. Bill Gates does own. I've talked about that on my show before. Not, I don't think since I've started streaming, but I have talked about that, and that's one that maybe I'll do a video on that sometime soon. Okay, coming back. Hey, Bloomington Normal. Welcome back to Speechless on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. I really appreciate you guys tuning in to me on Sundays from 3 to 5. I am your host, Kev, and everybody, this is Speechless. I'm trying to leave you speechless today, and so that's why in the last hour I had State Representative Brad Holbrook on talking about the ComEd trial, talking about this EV mandate. Everybody, if you want to see any of that, you can go to Cities 92.9 Facebook. You can see the live stream that I'm doing there. You can scroll back and watch that there. You can even watch my conversation about Barstool Sports firing a guy because he accidentally read the rap lyrics to a song that included the N-word. Yeah. Free speech is under attack, everybody. And like I said, I don't defend saying the N-word, not a good word. I don't use it, but shouldn't be fired over it. Mistakes happen and they are forgivable. All things are forgivable through Christ. But we're moving on to some different things in the next hour. But if you, like I said, you can go check out any of the previous content on Facebook, on YouTube, Speechless with Kev Phares. I am on YouTube now, and on Cities 92.9 Twitter. I'm even on Twitch too. I think I have at least one viewer on Twitch right now. Thank you so much for watching. I barely know what Twitch is. I just signed up for it and linked it to my account. So I am there. But moving on to a different story. I was reading today. I'm a political science major and a marketing major too, but the political science major in me likes to read random things that come out from like the White House and through government. And so I read through remarks by National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan on renewing American economic leadership at the Brookings Institution. This happened on April 27th. And when I was reading through it, I'm going to select some excerpts here, read through a lot of it though, because I find it really interesting. Yes, there is some leftist and Democrat crap in here, but the policy positions at its core sound very much more conservative than the usual tune of the Biden administration. So let me go through this a little bit. So he obviously starts off with an introduction. He says, as most of you know, Secretary Yellen gave an important speech just down the street last week on our economic policy with respect to China. Today, I'd like to zoom out to our broader international economic policy, particularly as it relates to President Biden's core commitment, indeed to his daily direction to us to more deeply integrate domestic policy and foreign policy. After the Second World War, the United States led a fragmented world to build a new international economic order. It lifted hundreds of millions of people out of poverty. It sustained thrilling technological revolutions, and it helped the United States and many other nations around the world achieve new levels of prosperity. But the last few decades revealed cracks in those foundations. A shifting global economy left many working Americans and their communities behind. A financial crisis shook the middle class. A pandemic exposed the fragility of our supply chains. A changing climate threatened lives and livelihoods. I love how that's like the most most vague one in here is a changing climate threatened lives and livelihoods. You want to know why it's vague? Is because he can't really give significant examples about how climate change is destroying the economy. But anyways, moving on, Russia's invasion of Ukraine underscored the risks of overdependence. So this moment demands that we forge new consensus. So what he's laying out in this is about what this national security advisor to Biden is trying to lay out what we need to do as a nation to revitalize our economy. So what he says in here is he says there's four key strategies that he thinks the four fundamental changes to help with making sure that America's economic track can go back to par and to what it was around World War II and in the post World War II generation. And so it's really interesting. First off, he says that he makes a clear statement, basically saying that we need to go back to what was focused on in the around World War II. Sounds like Make America Great Again to me from this Biden official. First off, that's the first thing. And yes, like I said, he does have some woke stuff in here, but let's keep going through this. So the first of the things that needs to be fundamental challenges, not changes. First of the four fundamental challenges is that America's industrial base has been hollowed out. So the vision of public investment that had energized the American project in the post-war years, and indeed for much of our history, has faded. Okay, so a vision of public investment that has energized the American project in the post-war years, and indeed for much of our history, has faded. There was an assumption at the heart of all of this policy that markets always allocate capital productively and efficiently. So he tries to go into some communist crap about how how the public sector needs to take more action in terms of regulating economy. But he does make a point in this section in which he says, in which he talks about how an embedded or all growth was good growth. So various reforms combined and came together to privilege some sectors of the economy, like finance, while other essential sectors atrophied. Our industrial capacity, which is crucial to any country's ability to continue to innovate, took a real hit. So what he's trying to say in this first section is that we need to bring back American industry. We need to bring back jobs to America. Interesting. Like, yes, he kind of takes a woke way to try to get to that. He goes in and tries to say, well, it's because of Republicans' lack of regulation and everything that that the issues caused. I don't really care if you want to blame Republicans for it. What he's saying is to bring back American jobs and American industry. That was a Trump policy, everybody. You know, our policies are good when even the other side takes them. Yes, they use some backwards ways of trying to blame Republicans for the issue that's caused. I don't really care about that. But what he's saying here is to bring back American jobs. The second challenge he claims that we're facing is adapting to a new environment defined by geopolitical and security competition with important economic impacts. Again, let me reread that. A second challenge we faced is adapting to a new environment defined by geopolitical and security competition. Interesting. Let's see how he expands upon that. International economic policy of the last few decades has relied upon the premise that economic integration would make nations more responsible and open, and that the global order would be more peaceful and cooperative. This assumption was obviously wrong. It didn't turn out that way. In some cases it did, but in a lot of cases it didn't. By the time President Biden came into office, we had to contend with the reality that a large non-market economy had been integrated into the international economic order in a way that posed considerable changes. Okay, now let's get into the meat of it. The People's Republic of China continued to subsidize at a massive scale both traditional industrial sectors like steel, as well as key industries of the future like clean energy, digital infrastructure, and advanced biotechnics. America didn't just lose manufacturing like in the first one. We eroded our competitiveness in critical technologies that would define our future. Again, everybody, this is remarks by a national security advisor for Joe Biden, Jake Sullivan, on renewing economic leadership. This is one of Biden's guys. And even he is saying that we need to bring jobs back to America, and China is using us. Our policies, again, conservative policies that Trump talked about, are the right way to go. What infuriates me, though, is that now, after the economy is in crisis and Biden has caused an absolute collapse, what's happened is that they now realize that we were right. They blame us and say that it was all our fault that we weren't doing it in the first place. But back when Trump was trying to say, was in a trade war with China and also was trying to bring jobs back to America, and we supported this, we were called racists for wanting to stand up to China. We were called we were told that we were fascists and anti-free market. We were told that we hated the free market because we wanted things to come back to America, that we were hypocrites. But now the same people that called us hypocrites, racists, everything for that, are now also saying that we need to do everything that we tried to do. We need to be tough on China. We need to bring jobs back to America and an industry back to America. Now, the third challenge that he claims we're facing is a climate crisis and an urgent need for efficient energy transition. And while I don't necessarily believe we're in a climate crisis like the left wants us to believe, he makes the point that economic growth is key to meeting our climate goals. And he's not wrong. If your goal is to have all these different electric vehicles and and make all these electric vehicle chargers across Illinois, across the nation, then yes, we do need economic growth because there needs to be money in the market to pay for that. And there's nothing wrong with wanting clean energy either, as long as we're looking at it from an efficient standpoint. And it can create a lot of jobs, building things such as nuclear power plants. But the left doesn't want to talk about that. The left doesn't want to talk about having nuclear power plants. All they want to do is keep stressing inefficient, clean energy like wind and solar. Wind turbines almost exert as much energy as they produce. They're not efficient. Solar panels are also incredibly dependent on when the sun's going to be out. Solar panels can be great in places like California, Arizona, and they can work okay in Illinois, but not nearly as much as they can in a sunnier state. So we need to talk about nuclear energy, but nobody wants to talk about that. Anyways, getting back to what this national security advisor had to say, let's talk about the fourth challenge that he says we're facing: inequality and its damage to democracy. Okay, I hate this one. I think this is stupid. But again, and I'm going to talk about why I think it's stupid. But I want to start off with saying that I don't really care what you claim the problem is or the challenge we're facing is, if the solution is my end goal too. And so if the solution to the stupid challenges that he's bringing up is we need to be stricter on China and we need to have industry in America again, then I don't really care about the challenge. But I'm still going to complain about the challenge because I think it's stupid. So he claims that this final challenge is inequality and its damage to democracy. Okay, first off, America is not a democracy. America is a democratic republic. We are a democratic republic in the fact that we do not have pure democracy. Pure democracy is bad. A pure democracy means that you have 51% of the population that rules over the other 49%. What do I mean by that? Is that if we had a pure democracy for elections, then we would never have a Republican president ever, because the Democratic Party, purely on numbers, is the largest party in the United States. Meaning that if they were able to get every Democrat to go out and vote, 51% of the population would vote Democrat, 49% would vote Republican, and that's just how the world would work, and they would continuously win. It's mob rule. The mob rules a pure democracy, and it's a bad idea. That's why we have a constitution. That's why we have a democratic republic that says, hey, you can have some kind of pure democracy at a local level. Your mayor can be pure democracy. Your city council can be pure democracy. Even some of your state offices, pretty much all your state offices, pure democracy. But at a national level, at our national representatives, needs to be kind of different. We have a democratic republic. So I don't really care if anything's eroding democracy, because we need to keep the balance of both democracy and the republic that we hold, purely. But he also says inequality. Okay, well, why is the goal equality? Like pure equality. Like when it comes to the economy is what I'm talking about. So he says in here, the drivers of economic inequality, as many of you know better than I, are complex, and they include structural challenges like the digital revolution. Okay, so why is the goal to be equal? Everybody be equal. Why is that the goal? Why? Why is the goal for everybody to be equal? Well, I'm going to have to talk about it in the next segment, because we do have to take a quick break here. But as I said earlier, I'm recapping this statement, this long speech given by National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan, a Biden National Security Advisor, that while he claims these challenges are super woke and everything, the end goals that he's trying to talk about are to hold China accountable and bring industry back to America. Two things that the right supports. Even Biden is trying to take notes from the good policies conservatives have. They just try to justify it with leftist crap. But we're going to talk about all that and everybody, and we're going to break down why this matters, why inequality should not be the goal. I'm sorry, why equality should not be the goal. In the next segment, everybody, we will be right back with more Speechless on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. Okie dokie. I see the chat's blowing up. I really appreciate everybody who's tuning in. Thank you so much. And so let's see what we had to say. I know to some that sound, this kind of thing is boring, like reading through this whole speech and everything. I know that that could be seen as boring to do on your own. That's why I'm trying to do it, because I think this message is super important, right? It's really interesting to see, like I said, that they are flat out saying that conservative policies are good. And like, yeah, maybe I'm not as fired up about it as I can get onto some other things. I am taking calls if you want to call in at 309-451-9299. I will be taking calls on that number, and I'll likely put you on hold and then just bring you straight on. Remember, everybody, though, this is live on the radio. So please, no cussing. Please, 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 no cussing. If you cuss, I will get in a lot of trouble. And please don't do that. But let's see what else other people are saying here, because I think, am I getting a call now? Yeah, I am. Okay. I have whoever called in right now, you are on hold, I assume, and I'll bring you on in the next segment. Okay. Just got an email. Apparently our AC in the building isn't working. Socialism is a philosophy of failure. Winston Churchill. Socialism is a philosophy of failure, the creed of ignorance, and the gospel of envy. Its inherent virtue is the equal sharing of misery. Sir Winston Churchill. Absolutely. Absolutely. Like I honestly, I could do a whole show kind of just on that whole hour at least, on justifying that claim. Here's a good one. Another one from Churchill. I like Churchill. Churchill was uh, such a prolific figure in the fact that he was able to kind of do what a lot of conservatives do nowadays, where we just like even back when Churchill was around, political correctness was not nearly the thing that it is now. But he was still kind of against the idea of political correctness, but he also spoke so eloquently and poetically. He could tell you that he could insult you insanely, and he would do it with a smile on his face, and you'd feel complimented. He was so good at speaking, and his ability to push his agenda, um, without really caring what anybody thought. Oh, I see that I got another caller here. Oh, I accidentally think I might have just hung up on you. I know I got a caller that's on hold right now. If you're trying to call too, I have all the callers on hold. Again, no cursing. If you're on hold, just wait up and I'll get you on in the next segment, which will be here in just a few minutes. And we are back with Speechless on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. I am your host, Kev, live in studio, not only on studio, on your radio and on your app, but also on Facebook, Cities 92.9 Facebook, my own YouTube channel, Speechless with Kev Phares, Twitch, Speechless with Kev Phares, and the Cities 92.9 Twitter. You can go check me out on all of those. If you're on YouTube, please like, subscribe, and share. If you're on Facebook, share it, like it, everything like that. And if you're on any of the other ones, just please, please, please share the heck out of this stuff. I got asked the other day, or it was on Ty Smith's show. We got asked about how do we help? How do we make sure that conservative voices are heard? Well, the best way to do it is I challenge everyone out there, tell two friends. Tell two friends, tell two friends about what you listen to on our shows. Share our channels. Because if you tell those two friends, and then they tell two friends, and then they tell two friends, our message grows exponentially, and that's what's important. And so in the last segment, I've been recapping this statement from a Biden national security advisor that actually says, despite the fact that his justification are leftist woke reasons, he actually says that we need to bring industry back to America and fight against China. And I'm getting some callers about this. It seemed to make people have a lot of thoughts on this. So I do have a caller on the line. Please remember, no cussing. But I have a caller right here. Hey, who am I talking to? Hello? Okay, it seems like that caller is not there, so I'm going to try to bring on a different caller. Let's bring this one on. Caller, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Awesome. Please make sure you turn down the video in the background. But let's talk a little bit about what I'm talking about. Is this Mama Dawn?
Yes, it is.
Hey, Mama Dawn, what are you thinking about all this that I'm saying when it comes to this national security advisor thing?
I don't care about the climate stuff because I think if they really cared about climate, they'd quit flying around the jets and all that. And it's been going on since I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
The climate scare.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I don't really think much about that.
Not at all.
But as far as bringing businesses back, I mean, that's been, in the works back and forth from each president. Well, Trump was in the middle of doing just that. In fact, trying to regulate where we were actually getting more of their stuff and they weren't getting our stuff, and we were being charged to send our stuff there, and we were just letting them send their stuff here. And most of China's stuff is garbage anyway. If anybody's ever got anything that says made in China, it doesn't last.
Yeah.
It's crap. And, children are making half the stuff, Nike stuff anyway.
Well, absolutely.
So,
here's the other thing to even build off that a little bit, and I'm curious what your and a lot of people don't know this, but so a big thing that everybody's kind of keeping an eye on right now is Taiwan. A lot of people think that China is gearing up right now to do to Taiwan what Russia's doing to Ukraine, except for the thing about Taiwan is that their military capabilities are much less than Ukraine's. And the thing about Taiwan is that like 90% of the chips in our electronic devices come from Taiwan. And so you want to talk about like an economic issue, an issue that we don't have industry in America anymore. It's the fact that if China were to actually attack Taiwan, then iPhone production or whatever phone you have, production of that plummets. The TVs in your house, production of that plummets. Computers plummets. Everything. Every technological advance we've had in the last 2 to 3 decades, you wouldn't be able to get those devices nearly as easily if China attacks Taiwan and production ceases.
Well, I don't know how well your iPhone works, but mine lasts about a year.
Yeah.
And then something happens where I can't hear on it or the buttons don't work right, something every time. I mean, all the time. I'm like, it just lasts long enough for the warranty to go out, and then, it's garbage again.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's planned out. That's planned obsolescence right there. That could be an issue of the company itself, but at the quality of that could be coming from other parts. The problem is the chips, though. We are so dependent. Our chips are so dependent on other countries, and in period, it speaks to a larger, broader issue of how dependent we have become on other countries. It was great that Trump got us primarily energy independent. We were pretty much producing all of our own oil, and our fossil fuels were coming from America. But then Biden reversed a lot of that and made it so then we became dependent on other countries. When Russia invaded Ukraine, about 5% of the nation's oil, which is actually a pretty substantial amount, came from Russian oil reserves. And so then when we ceased getting that, it's one of the things that made it so that our costs went up significantly.
Well, America's big enough, large enough. We have enough people to where we could be self-sufficient if we wanted to be. But we have all these politicians who stay in there way too long and who make deals that, how do they become millionaires? None of them make enough money to be hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars. They just don't.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Nancy Pelosi, she is worth what, $200 some million?
Yep.
They're like, oh, well, her husband her husband gets, information from her on what stocks to sell and whatever. I mean, all of it's dirty, crooked politicians. And until we get rid of them, America is obviously going to probably be taken over by China.
Absolutely.
Maybe not in my lifetime, but probably my grandkids.
Yeah, I mean, it's already on the way, and not necessarily taken over in the sense that we are going to be under the Chinese government, but at least in terms of our economy, we are already ruled by the Chinese because we are so reliant on them for so much. Mama Dawn, I really appreciate it. I got other callers I do have to get to, but thank you so much for coming on, and I got to take a break real quick.
Okie dokie.
Okay, thank you so much, Mama Dawn. Thank you, everybody. You can call in at 309-451-9299, and we will be right back with more Speechless on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. Okie dokie, everybody. I believe I have another caller on the line, and I will get to them in the next segment. Turn up that one. Thank you, Jim. Yeah, thank you, Mama Dawn. Really appreciate you calling. I appreciate everybody who calls in, and I think that really helped build. Again, we are in a fight for the soul of this nation. We've consistently been in it, and right now, our while we do have domestic threats. We have the domestic threats of progressive leftism, and I think that's should be one of the things that we have at the forefront. The progressive left genuinely wants to bring us into a global society. I mean, they say it, a new world order. They say it at the World Economic Forum. Andrea, I'll get to you in the next segment. I'll bring you on. I just have to wait for it to be on the radio. It's just the way the board works and everything. But we have the new world order is out there. The World Economic Forum says it blatantly, and everybody just kind of pretends like it's not even happening. The progressive left wants that. You're George Soros, and it's not every progressive. There's some people that think they're genuinely fighting for civil rights and all that kind of crap. But like your people at the top, your George Soroses, even some there's some Republicans in there too. There's some Republicans that are a part of this new world order stuff. It's just it's just a little bit they're a little bit more secretive about it. Um, and they want this world government. And so the thing about China and our dependence on them, that's wanted. People want us to be the heavy progressive lefts, the elites want us to be dependent on China because it makes it so that we can, or so that we have to move towards a world government. You're right. They are rhinos and not Republicans. My point being is that this isn't about a party. This is about an ideology. It's about an ideology. It's not about being Democrat or Republican. That shouldn't be your fight. People ask me a lot of times, are you a Republican? And if it's warranted, I just say yes, because it's in short, yes. But in reality, I'm a conservative that tends to vote Republican because most Republicans are a lot or more Republicans than Democrats are against this elitist culture. It's become the parts of the Republican Party have become synonymous with the populist movement that I'm a part of, populist conservatism. It's where you reject the elitism. And that's why I actually can get along sometimes with some socialists and some wackos that are on the left because, like in interpersonal context, because they also see issues with the elitist culture and also want a certain sense of sovereignty. But it just looks very, very different and is incredibly flawed, in my opinion. But I have a better time getting along with them than moderates who just think that the system isn't flawed at all. Have about a few minutes here left, probably a little over a minute before I come back. Okay, let's look at these. Public office and jury duty should pay the same. Absolutely, Jim. Absolutely. No complaints here. Just another reminder, too, for anybody that's watching. If you're watching on YouTube, please, please, please like, subscribe, and share. I also see that I have one viewer on Twitch. Thank you for looking at my Twitch. Feel free to whatever follow on Twitch if that's a thing. I don't really know much about Twitch. I'm coming back in about 30 seconds and I'll take my next caller then. Okay, coming back in a few seconds. And we are back with Speechless on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you missed even a little bit of the show, you can go check it out on Facebook. I got the live stream there, Cities 92.9 Facebook page. You can go check out my YouTube or my Twitch. That's Speechless with Kev Phares. Again, Speechless with Kev Phares, last name spelled Phares. I know that's a weird spelling for it, but Phares is Speechless with Kev Phares right here. And I am that guy. I am Speechless, and I am Kev Phares. And today I've been talking about a lot of different things. I talked about the N-word, the N-word, that old word that is obviously not politically correct. And Barstool Sports firing a guy for reading it in a rap song. Insane. You can go check all that out on my YouTube or on Facebook. I also talked with State Representative Brad Holbrook at the top of the show, talking about the ComEd scandal and corruption lawsuit, along with electric vehicle charging mandates in new developments in Illinois. Go check all that out on our other on our platforms. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I am taking callers, and I got one on the line right now. You can call or text in at 309-451-9299. I've been talking about the Biden National Security Advisor, Jake Sullivan, claiming despite using a leftist rationalization for why we need to do these things, trying to say that we should bring industry back to America and that we need to fight and that we need to see China as an adversary in terms of industry. And so let's see. Andrea, is that you?
It's Andrea.
Andrea, sorry.
That's okay.
Awesome. So what are your thoughts on all this?
Well, I'm going to have to just go ahead and disagree with you.
Okay.
On the Jake Sullivan thing, and I'm going to tell you why.
All good. I encourage disagreement, so let's hear what you have to say.
What he's actually doing, right, by kind of spouting off these MAGA talking points, it's just one big lie, because that's how stupid they think Americans are. They think that they could just spout off popular talking points. They're coming up on a presidential election. They're spouting off the same talking points that Donald Trump has spouted off. And if you really think for 1 minute that they're worried that there's any type of remote concern about all of a sudden they're worried about China, that's how much contempt and that's how stupid they think the American people are, that they're just going to put it right in your face, and they're going to think that the American people are going to fall for it. And I'm going to tell you why they're doing it. They're doing this big lie. They're going to try to sell the big lie because the government, the United States government, is losing favor of the American people. Not only are they down in the polls, but people no longer believe in the justice system. People no longer believe that there's security in the Federal Reserve. Like, what you're witnessing in real time is history being made, because the American people, the majority of the American people, are just they're not buying it anymore. They're not falling for it. But that doesn't mean that the political class doesn't have hatred and contempt for the American people in the country. They clearly do, based on what has happened over the last 2 years.
Now, I understand where you're coming from, and I think for the most part, the sentiment that you're talking about, I agree with. I agree. Oftentimes, they change their tune around election season and everything. But I think in this specific instance, the reason why I disagree with you is because, one, it's just an advisor. It is not. If it was Biden coming out and saying that we need to finally be tough on China, I'd be like, what are you talking about? You are not a guy that's ever needed to be tough. It's never, nobody's ever been like, oh yeah, Biden, he's really tough on China, This advisor, though, is coming out, one, and he is still spewing the leftist talking points. He's saying that we need to do it for climate change and that we need to do it for to help with economic inequality, all those. He is spouting the leftist talking points, and it takes, you have to read into it to really see, because the thing is that he doesn't, when you read it, he doesn't actually want to say that we need to get out of China and reinvest in America. He doesn't actually want to say that, but he is giving what he is trying to say is that actually is what's good, without admitting that it's a conservative view. He's trying to say this should be a liberal view because of all these leftist talking points. And so I agree with you. Usually they do put boldface, or they put things that make it sound like they're conservative out there for election season. But in this instance, he's trying to distance it from being a conservative view. You see what I'm saying?
Okay. Well, I'm gonna I respect your opinion.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just gonna respectfully disagree with you now.
Totally get it.
I could just move on to climate change, and I'm going to tell you how you know this is a hoax, and I encourage everybody out there listening to you to do this.
Let's do it.
Look on buying oceanfront property anywhere. Look for the prospectus on it. There's not one mention of climate change in any type of prospectus. When you're dealing with property and bank loans and mortgages, there is zero mention of it. That's how you know it's just one big money-grabbing hoax.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And as far as his stance on equality, what he really means is he wants everyone but them equally poor. And that's another thing.
That's what I was going to get to earlier when I was talking about why they claim inequality is such a big issue. In terms of the economy, we're not meant to be equal. That's like the position of a capitalist society is that, and honestly, my position is that in life, in almost every situation, or in a significant amount of situations in life, there are winners and there are losers, and sometimes you're going to be the loser, sometimes you're going to be the winner. And that's how our economy works too. It's a gamble. Everything, the economy is a gamble.
Well, and I totally understand that. And here's where I'm coming from.
Mm-hmm.
If they were really concerned about equality, then you know what they wouldn't have done? They wouldn't have shuttered all the small businesses during the COVID lockdown and let the big box stores and their donors have the largest wealth transfer in history if they were really worried about equality.
Absolutely.
What they actually mean is anytime you hear equality or equity, replace that with communism, because there's nothing equal about what they're doing. They're instituting a class system.
Well, and here's the thing, and this is why I think you're so right, is because when they're saying, when I was talking about the winners and losers scenario, what they want is they want the government to always win. Because in the society that they are creating, or that they're trying to create, when they bring up those buzzwords, like you said, in equality, inequality, equity, things like that, is what they want is for the government to be the winner. They don't care. They wouldn't care about inequality if the government was taking in all the money, redistributing it in the ways that they want to, and thus all the money goes in their pockets. The problem they have is that a significant amount of the wealth is currently controlled by businessmen and people in business. And so what they've tried to start doing is accumulating business into the government pocket, or getting the government into the business's pocket. And so that's why we have businesses that are de facto government, that are de facto parts of the government. And that's why they push woke agendas now. Why do you think that Bud Light has Dylan Mulvaney? Why do you think that Disney is grooming children? It's because they are in the hands of the progressive left that is controlling the government and trying to push this new world order agenda.
And I could not agree with you more, but and I'm just going to call it like I see it.
Mm-hmm.
How we got here is how we got all the way here, all the way at this point right now, is the American people tolerating it. The reason why there's so much corruption is because the American people have tolerated it. The reason why we're in the crisis that we're in right now is because the American people have tolerated it. They know we're a kind people and we're a good people and we just want to live our lives. But you're dealing with people who don't care if you're crushed, and they weaponize that against us.
Absolutely.
And, what I'm saying is, if Americans are upset about how their country is going, we have no one to blame but ourselves.
Yep.
And that's the hard truth, in my opinion.
Absolutely. I think you are 100% right. Andrea, sorry. We do have to take a quick break here soon, so I'm going to wrap up this story a little bit. Any last words that you have for the listeners?
No, all I have to say is that I love the American people. I love my country. I want to see everybody live a good, happy life. And it's been a pleasure. Thank you for taking my call, Kev.
Absolutely. Of course. Thank you so much. Everybody, that was Andrea. A wonderful call from her. Again, I don't have too much time for any more calls today, but if you do have a quick thought or anything, feel free to text or call in at 309-451-9299. And I think we wrapped up a lot about that story. The question is that Andrea and I kind of disagreed on was whether or not this was a leftist attempt to try to appeal to conservatives. Maybe I'm misrepresenting her argument a little bit, but I don't believe I am. But whether or not this was a cat call to conservatives, or if, like I believe, this was them trying to frame what was a conservative opinion, the Trump blueprint of get out of China and industrialize America, whether or not it's one of those two. I believe I totally understand what Andrea was saying, though, is there are so many times in which the left will flat out try to appeal to conservatives in pandering ways. Biden did it on the campaign trail when he would go to certain working class Americans, and that were obviously more of Trump voters. And it just doesn't work. The left is fueled by pandering. Andrea is 100% right on that. However, I think in this instance, Jake Sullivan from the National Security Advisor that gave these remarks to on renewing American economic leadership, tried to frame the ideas, the Trump ideas of reindustrializing America, making us a source for our products. Once again, he tried to frame it as if it was a liberal opinion by stressing things like climate change, by stressing the quote unquote economic inequality, by stressing, by stressing just societal changes and such. He really is. That's what he's doing. He's using liberal tactics and liberal agenda items to justify, interestingly enough, the conservative opinions, the Trump opinions, the Trump blueprint. So that's that, everybody. We do have to take a quick break here, and then I'm going to wrap up with just one more interesting story at the end. What if a trans female fights a male? Isn't that just two men fighting? That story, we're going to talk about it in the next segment, everybody. We'll be right back with more Speechless on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. Let's see some of these comments here. The pandemic was about control. Absolutely. You good? What's up? Oh, yeah.
It's pumping out hot air out there. So
Oh, is it really?
John wants to, you can't really feel that. John
Sometimes I feel this one if I go like right here. Yeah, this one's cool air. If you feel right there, you can feel cool air. It's
I
cold.
think it's about ready to do a dump on us, but John's supposed to come in later and take a look. But he wants
Okay.
us to leave the studio doors open when we're done.
I saw that email. Yep,
Okay,
I'll do that.
all right.
Thank you. Checking the AC, everybody. Okay. Let's see some more of these comments. I am tired. I'm sorry that I'm sitting so far low in the screen. It's my camera. My back. I can stand up I only got 10-ish more minutes. Okay, waiting for that one. Thank you. Yep, it's an interesting story. I couldn't believe it. I'm also I was supposed to do a Bud Light update today, but I don't think I'll be able to get to that. I'll make a cut for time video for that at some point, probably tomorrow. Flat out facts. Yep. The caller. Thank you. Yeah. For all my callers, guys. Thank you guys so much. And for even just you guys watching, like, I really do appreciate it. I've been doing this radio show for a little over a year now. And I really love it. I really do. I like being able to talk to people. And that's like the biggest thing. That's why I really do like having I really do like having people call in and be involved in that way, because it's the reason why I think this show is so important. The reason why it's called Speechless, uh, metaphorically, because well, the real reason it's called Speechless is because the last book I read before starting this channel or starting the show was Speechless by Michael Knowles. But anywho, what it's come to mean is the idea that I'm on a college campus, right? I'm left speechless. People are trying to silence me all the time, make me speechless. And it really is all over on college campuses. However, it's now all over the entire world. This guy gets fired because he slipped and accidentally said the N word from Barstool Sports. You have other people that can't talk. You can't recognize basic biology, that men are men and women are women, and they get fired because they misgender somebody, right? A lot of people are very, very, are are very, very silenced in this world. Sorry, I just saw this comment from a very special girl in my life. So she's a little bit biased, but yep. And we'll be back with that final story to wrap up briefly here. Few minutes. Okay. Yep. We're going to be back here sometime soon. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you have not already, please, please, please like, subscribe, and share. I really appreciate it. You guys are awesome. Of course. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Okay. Okay, everybody. We'll be right back with my last segment here pretty soon. Okay. Talking about a transgender fighter that's going to fight a man. We're going to talk about this and break it down. Hey, Bloomington Normal, and welcome back to Speechless on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. I'm your host, Kev, live here on the radio, on your app, on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. You can find me on all of those. Everybody, we only have a few more minutes, so I do want to break down this last story. I found it really interesting. A transgender MMA artist accepts former UFC fighters' challenge to fight, saying, quote, "I'm going to F you up." This is coming out of Fox News. Mac Beggs won back-to-back high school girls titles while transitioning. So Last month, the former UFC fighter Jake Shields posted a challenge to, quote, the toughest trans men to a bout, and one has answered the call. Mac Beggs, a biological female, sorry, I might have misspoken my teaser earlier, a biological female, Mac Beggs from Texas, who has transitioned, posted on Instagram that she was down to go against Shields. After Shields claimed to receive no response from any trans fighters, he revised his offer, saying he'd take on former UFC fighter Mike Jackson and 10 trans fighters simultaneously. This is a serious offer. Go get your team ready, Shields tweeted April 20th. But Beggs wants to enter the octagon with Shields one-on-one. We're just going to make this an official call out, but Jake Shields, I will take you up on your offer, but the offer isn't going to be 10 versus 1 and 10 trans men. You're going to be fighting for the rest of the night. You're going to do a one-on-one type match. You're going to do it right. You're going to have to call yourself a fighter. Do it effing right. Jeez. Beggs said it was, quote, disrespectful to the sport of MMA to call out 10 trans men and say he would whoop them. So basically, we have a biological female that is going to fight a biological guy, but they both claim to be men when only one of them really is. And I think this will be really telling. I don't know if it's actually going to happen. It seems like it kind of could just be some talk here, but I really hope it actually happens. A further statement is it's the fact that y'all are so fixated and hyper-fixated and have some fetish with trans women that you even forget that we are out here and we are going to F you up. That was from the woman who claims to be a man. And I guess she's kind of got a point, is that, yeah, the conservatives are very focused on the men pretending to be women. And I think this is a lot more because it's a lot more predatory. Women who are pretending to be men are also, there's also kind of there is obviously a problem with it when it comes to the idea of mental illness and treating mental illness. We need to help people that are mentally ill and suffer from gender dysphoria. However, women pretending to be men is not, like, there are men that pretend to be women for the purpose of going into or being predatory towards women. There very well could be women pretending to be men that are doing it for predatory reasons. But it's a lot. The amount of cases from that are not nearly as many as the predatory cases of men pretending to be women. So that's why we care about that so much. Anyways, back to the story. Beggs was in the middle of transitioning while in high school. So that's an issue in and of itself that could take a whole hour to talk about, and I don't have a whole hour. But the state rules forced Beggs to wrestle against girls. So the biological female had to wrestle against biological women. Makes sense. Beggs won a Texas championship in the girls 110-pound championship against the same girl, and then went 79-0 over those 2 years. I just want to see this fight happen because I want to see I want it to really be shown how men are dominant, because I would put all my money on the biological man in winning this fight. I would. Absolutely. Well, everybody, thank you guys so much for tuning in this week from 3 to 5 on Sundays. This is Kev, and you've been listening to Speechless. We'll be back next Sunday from 3 to 5. Thank you so much for listening, and talk to you later. Bye-bye. Everybody on YouTube, guys, thank you guys so much for tuning in as well. It's been great. I do have to get out of here. I've got finals and stuff to work on. I should be doing another live stream on Wednesday, as I usually do. I really hope I'm able to make that. But in the meantime, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Everybody, hope you've been left speechless. I'll see you guys next week or later this week.